If you watch Bryan Denlinger's videos where he attempts to attack Pastor Anderson's post-trib moments, another thing that you'll see is that he makes a big distinction between a trump and a trumpet. Now, Bryan is correct that there is a difference, but the Bible will actually tell you what this is, and in fact it proves a post-trib rapture and not a pre-trib rapture as Bryan thinks. Of course, in 1 Thessalonians 4 we have the famous rapture elements, the coming of the Lord, the trump of God, and the clouds. And this is actually the second time the word trump is found in the Bible, and it's the last time it's found in the Bible as well. But in 1 Corinthians 15, the first time the word trump is found, it'll define what it is. In verse 52, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound. Telling you flat out and very crystal clear here that a trump is the sound that the trumpet makes. And of course, in 1 Thessalonians 4, in order to have a trump of God, there has to be a trumpet that's sounding. And then, if we're going to be really consistent with this, we see in Matthew 24 the famous rapture elements, Son of Man coming, clouds, and then verse 31, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. This would be a trump, the sound that the trumpet makes, and it's so obvious, and it's so consistent with 1 Corinthians 15 here, the language that it's using. A trump, and then the trumpet sound. This is exactly what's happening in Matthew 24, and you'd have to be a fool to say otherwise. And of course, Bryan is a fool, and he doesn't want to acknowledge that, but that is the trump itself. And another point that Bryan will often bring up in his videos is he thinks that 1 Corinthians 15 is showing that the rapture is a secret event. Well, that is absolutely a wrong interpretation in verse 51, because when it says, "Behold, I show you a mystery," it's actually telling you what the mystery is, meaning it used to be a mystery, but it no longer is a mystery because he's telling us what it is. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And when it says in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, that does not refer to Christ coming in the clouds, like as far as that happening in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. It's our body that will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And the dead will be raised incorruptible at that moment. So this has nothing to do with, Christ only coming for, less than a second in the clouds and where nobody sees him. This is simply referring to how our bodies will be changed when Jesus finally does come in the clouds. And then there'll be some time before we're actually caught up in the clouds, and then God will pour out his wrath after this. So Bryan is not reading the full context here, and he's failing to recognize that just because 1 Thessalonians 4 says trump, and that Matthew 24 says trumpet, well, because the Bible defines what a trump is, it's right there in Matthew 24. A great sound of a trumpet. That's a trump, and anybody who says otherwise is fooling themselves.